Streaming now on IWTV. New Texas Pro. Check our schedule for all future New Texas Pro events, including the Texas Contender Series. Watch over 70 New Texas Pro shows anytime on demand. Featuring Stephen Wolf, Fly Death, Rachel Rose, and the Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith.
Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP Jampaz from the Two-Man Power Trip, of course. Joining me, the doctor himself, Dr. M. Lavie Marg. Lavie, what's going on? How you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing great. Really appreciate that we had the chance to talk to George Barrios last week. But it's been quite a while since we've looked at the news, since I'm mixing up my weeks. But I think we snuck in a recording before I went to LA for a few days. So lots of stories breaking, lots going on.
Yeah, I feel like a lot's going on, but maybe something closer to home is going on. What's going on with you going to some live events, taking the fam, if you will? I think this was in Yonkers.
Yes. So Yonkers, New York, Victory Pro Wrestling. We went last year in the same venue, the Veterans of Foreign War VFW Hall. Last year it was inside. So, we didn't bring any hats or anything like that. And then this year it was outside. And the weather was quite nice, but there wasn't really any shade. So it was about half an hour to showtime. So I was looking up, where's the Family Dollar or wherever, getting suntan, not sunscreen and all that sort of stuff. But once we settled in, it was fun show. They really understand their audience, kid friendly. And shout out to Bill Apter. He was a special guest for the show. I was certainly planning to go over to him, but he spotted us there right away, came over and introduced himself. I reminded him that I sent him Trump Mania book in the mail a few years ago, and my son was curious who he was, and it was just a good show all around. I'm not sure what the overall lessons for the wrestling business are, except that you want to have these access point for kids, to really engage. My son loves the interactivity, sometimes too much. They had the old "it's your birthday" trick on pro wrestling. Somebody's face always goes in the cake, and with the pieces that were made, my son was grabbing at it and eating it. I was like, you should leave that alone. But we had a good time.
Nice. And it's good to see Billy Apter at the matches, if you will. So good stuff from what is it called? What's the promotion called? Victory
VPW,
Pro?
Victory
VPW.
Pro. They're
VPW.
Long Island based, and they have a lot of their homegrown talent, but a couple people emerged from there, including Wendy Chu a few years ago. So good to have that grassroots pro wrestling.
Nice. Now, what is going on in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling? I feel like there's a ton of news, and obviously there was a sale information we kind of talked about before, but go into some more detail. What's going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling right now?
Yeah. So originally when I took the notes, I was like, everything, about the sale. And then once we had the opportunity to interview Barrios, it's kind of, people have talked about that. So the angle that I wanted to talk about was what does this mean for the US market? And I think that it means less for the US market. New Japan had been pulling back a little bit anyway, just because it had been more of a struggle. We'll get it more into the Chicago show, which I would define as a success. They certainly, had their moment a few years ago, sort of that pre-AEW time where we weren't sure, is it Ring of Honor? Is it New Japan? That's, number 2 in the US. TNA was really struggling. When New Japan and Ring of Honor worked together, it was even better. But Ring of Honor was starting to show its wear in terms of, booking big events. They were struggling a little bit too. So New Japan really had their moment a number of years ago. So now, it's Cyber Agent, which owns Cyber Fight, Pro Wrestling Noah, and their own Joshi promotion, and a number of a couple other smaller ones. So they tried to make inroads in the US. I remember there was a $300,000 bounty or it's like, I guess if you could help them like really break through in the US, they would give you that. So I was pitching them on that, but that never really went anywhere. Wrestle Universe, has a little bit of a foothold here, but it's quite niche and small. So that's one side, and then TV Asahi right there, obviously a Japan based television network, and they don't even like clips being shared in the US or anywhere on social media. So my feeling is that, and I think this is a good thing, that New Japan will mostly concentrate on Japan and maybe Asian markets, but less so kind of tinting at windmills type of thing in the US, because that window is basically closed. But as we see in Chicago, we'll talk about it in a moment, there's still something here. What do you think about the prospects for New Japan and how the co-owners will handle things moving forward, John?
Yeah, that's interesting to me because it's almost like, okay, maybe make some more inroads and focus more on Japan, because it seems like that market isn't doing that great, especially after Tanahashi's retirement. It just seems like it's definitely not as good as it once was, but maybe not focus so much here on the States, and maybe not so much of like the letting AEW use so much of their talent, because then when they do come to the States, it's not as special because, hey, we saw this guy in AEW. We went to a live event. There was all these New Japan guys. Even Forbidden Door, I think, is a bit passe at this point. So I think they should figure out how to work more with basically their home country, if you will. They need to focus in on Japan more and less on the States, and probably give less talent to AEW.
That's a great point in terms of like taking away the specialness of it. Like that might be a strategy, sort of like pull back a little bit, get yourself in order. And then if you're coming as the promoters, then, it's more special. But if not, just focus on being the booking agent, right? Because then, although there's less of a ceiling for like big profits, that seems challenging anyway, that you can make money. Look at, their old partner, Bushiroad, with Stardom. It seems like Stardom is breaking out everywhere now. Everyone's advertising Stardom is coming to their promotion from big to small. But for New Japan, what I was thinking about was that, maybe there's the opportunity now with WWE, right? Like if they're not so worried about the US market and WWE wants to work with them, that might be the best way to profit. WWE has always wanted to make more inroads in Japan.
Yeah, it just seemed like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting with Cyber Agent, who obviously owns Pro Wrestling Noah, who obviously works with WWE. So I wonder if that's going to cause any issues, and maybe I don't know, maybe a change or two as far as maybe not working with AEW so much anymore.
Yeah, I think things will sort out, and big corporations seem to want to work together. Cyber Agent, I had deemed, along with Sinclair, a number of years ago, sort of like the sleeping giants of pro wrestling, in that they're multi-billion-dollar companies, but they're really not taking full advantage of that. Obviously, with Cyber Agent, you don't want to throw good money after bad. It was just, I think, in the last year that Cyber Fight was nearly profitable. So like sort of cutting the losses, and kind of they're there. So, to throw more money at it, wouldn't necessarily make sense. I'm not sure how it works with all, these different brands there. And there's a lot of different streaming services, how New Japan World would like integrate in that. Do you see any more, John, like on social media or whatever, like people like being like, oh, did you just see this event on New Japan World? Like it felt like that was happening all the time, especially when Jericho was main eventing, but like it's been years since that.
Definitely. Back then, for sure. Even though back in January with Tanahashi and Okada, there was a lot of like people checking out New Japan World for that. So I feel like that was kind of the only thing recently. But of course, that's Tanahashi retirement. How do you move forward? Who's like the big star? How do you go from there? But before that, it was definitely Jericho, mixed with Omega, all that stuff. So it felt like kind of up and down New Japan World, and even maybe with Bullet Club and obviously Okada at the the 2010s was a bit hot. But yeah, New Japan World kind of been slow.
Yeah. I feel like we used to get that 100,000 number, but it's never changed, like 100,000 worldwide number. but nobody's updated that in forever. So in the last, outside of Forbidden Door, right, like you're talking about, like the excitement of it, maybe is a little bit gone. But if AEW is happy with it, and it seems like it was reported that it's sort of like a flat fee, not that they're like the co-promoters of it, that New Japan can continue to make money with it. You know what's always been odd to me when they do that, what is it, November show, which is sort of like a tribute to Inoki sort of thing in Washington, where it kind of feels like it's
Wrestle Dream.
Wrestle Dream, where it seems like it's with New Japan, but they don't do that one with New Japan. That always seemed like weird branding.
Very, very odd. Kind of doesn't make sense, but I guess Tony's a big Inoki fan.
Yes, he's a fan of everything from global on down, in my opinion. Right? Yes. I was going to say on up, but global is the premium. Lastly, we're continuing to track, or WrestleTix, and we're reporting on it, New Japan's G1 Climax show. It's getting closer, July 11th, so just under a month as we report this. 3,207 tickets distributed. John, do you think like the final number is going to swing things one way or another for the new owners? Like if they see like, there's 5,000 people here, let's keep, doing a show in the US, or if it's 3,500, let's not, or that just doesn't matter?
I do think, like, even 3,200 here, it's a pretty good number. I do think that they're probably looking at, they're like, oh, maybe we will do more shows in the U.S., which I don't know if necessarily is a smart thing unless they did get rid of the AEW tie-in, and then maybe you could do some more shows in the U.S. because it would be more special that you're doing separate shows. So I don't know, maybe they'll look at that and they'll say, hey, we could draw up in the U.S. pretty well. We could be like, like a number 3 type in the U.S., but I think they need to focus on Japan more.
Yeah, and on the other side of it, with Bushiroad keeping Stardom, that just seems like a better fit for me. Certainly not understanding the Japanese market, to any degree beyond an outsider, but like Bushiroad with what they do with like the, the anime type stuff, the women concerts, like the pop nature of it. It just feels like Stardom like bakes in, very well with that, and they could continue to like integrate that well into things, whereas like New Japan, it seemed like a different type of product. So it'll be interesting to see if Bushiroad keeps Stardom, which continues to grow, and if there's any additional resources put on that, right? Because it'd be hard to grow sort of like as a secondary brand in pro wrestling, but now that they are the pro wrestling brand, although Joshi is quite different for Bushiroad.
So, we're talking about AEW and kind of what they're up to. What are they up to with My AEW, this AEW Plus? It seems like they're bringing in more indie promotions, like they're signing them up for their service.
Yeah, so, of course, there was the Georgia promotion that they were closely aligned with, and it was sort of like, okay, they're kind of in-house already, so is this all they're going to do? And then I think they're being really smart about the brands that they're bringing on already. So first one was higher profile, and the second one kind of snuck out there a little bit, and then I think I helped to boost it as the word gets out. But Produce Wrestling. So, guest of the show, Adam Abdallah, probably best known in the wrestling circles for the Jersey Pro Wrestling with GCW, and also facilitating all those like art shows now, that like the intersection with pro wrestling. So Produce Wrestling is going to be sort of like a pay-per-view series on AEW Plus. So it's an add-on for $14.95. And what it is they're working with different pro wrestlers to sort of like style their own shows, kind of like the Joey Janela Spring Break type of thing, where it's like the talent kind of like sets the stage and helps to develop the show in its own way. So Jonathan Gresham is starting things out in Brooklyn, and they'll be in the general area for a while. Jersey City, then special show in Montreal, back to Brooklyn, Jersey City. So that sort of thing. But I think it's a smart thing. It's kind of clear that it's not kind of figuring out like how many streams did you get on AEW Plus, what's the breakdown, what's that worth, or whatever. Here it's like a pay-per-view, whatever they work out with AEW Plus as a distributor, whatever percentage wise, like that's like clean, and it kind of it relates to, AEW fans who like, niche products as well. Interesting that Jonathan Gresham is the first talent, being highlighted as, right. It was reported that there were some issues there with Gresham when he was in Ring of Honor and kind of leaving the company. I don't know, what the actual story was there. And like I mentioned, they're one of the companies I'll be working with, Stardom. But then yesterday, as we're recording this, Limitless Wrestling was posting about coming to My AEW, and that's another smart promotion. So I think we'll start seeing it. I'm not sure if it'll be like an open door, no pun intended, for everyone. And certainly AEW hasn't shied away from deathmatch wrestling, and deathmatch wrestling apparently streams well. But do you think that they'll like be open to that type of content that goes beyond the type of deathmatch that they do on their shows, or is that just like not a smart thing for their brand, John?
I don't know, because it's like a different aspect, maybe a different fan that you might get that you wouldn't normally maybe get, on another part of the service, or maybe watching the other stuff. So it could be, I don't know, it's one of those things you might turn off some fans, but I think you might get some fans you wouldn't normally get ordering the service if you have like their style of wrestling, like change it up a little bit.
I guess if you make it clear, like, the different categories of content, maybe
Yeah.
like you think about HBO back in the day, right? And there's the premiere movies, but then late night, it was
Yep.
something different, and they're not, I don't think that necessarily hurt their brand. But there was still the premium service, and that was considered best in class. But I would say to be careful of it, because some promoters obviously don't have the best judgment with the way they do things, whether it's, extreme violence, treating different genders, language or whatever it may be. And it could end up being more trouble than it's worth if it's not sort of curated carefully, John.
Right. You have a buffet though. It's nice to have a buffet of different things and get a whole different type of fan base ordering your product. You know what I mean? But you got to make it obvious, like what's where. Like, hey, this is death matches. This is Joshi. This is AEW. Spread it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and I think it's smart to like have this be like pro wrestling for everyone now. Like take a couple years and build this up. Obviously, as a revenue driver, you really want a premium either streaming service or network to pay you the rights fees. That's kind of the key to what they're doing. But it's kind of like a good, hedge your bets type of things, kind of like WWE Network was years ago, where, if we don't have a good deal or if we want to distribute certain types of content, like we've built up this platform.
So what's going on with the NWA? Are you forgetting to cover it sometimes? What's going on with NWA?
So NWA, like it's wild with the way that they're reporting ratings, or at least sharing. I guess it's more Adam Ware at Sinclair, who's a key executive in their Diginets, the Sinclair Diginets. So 1 week, and these are different weeks. So week 4, the latest numbers are in. Week 4, Billy Corgan's NWA Power delivered significant viewership and growth, especially among younger viewers. Since launch, the series is up 297%, P2 to 54, 28%, P35 to 64. So he shared a graphic for week 4. So persons 25 to 54, 72,000, up 279,000. 35 to 64, 138,000, up 28%. Persons 204,000, up 9%. So quickly, if you add these up, it's about 400,000 people. Okay, amazing, right, John? So then we get to week 5, and he's like, growth, NWA Power on Comet. And then he has it by the quarter hours. Respect, right? Because we don't usually get that. So just looking at the best quarter hour, 4:45 p.m., P2, 73,000. 25 to 54, 31,000. 35 to 64, 41,000. 50 plus 43,000. So you add these up, and that's about 180,000. So the only way I can make sense of this is that if you add all 4 quarters as individual watchers, kind of like thinking about it, that people are tuning in just for a quarter and you add them all up. So was that what was being done for week 4? And week 5, it's being broken down more here? Because obviously it makes a lot more sense that now that was the best quarter, so you'd have to average that out. So let's say it's like 140,000 people on a station that in prime time averages about 85,000 in 2025. That makes a lot of sense. But how could you go from 400,000 to 150,000 and highlight the growth? John, like, how would you make sense of this?
I don't know, like, is it accurate? You know what I mean? Like how are they getting those numbers? But is it throughout the whole week? Is it just a day? It, like, I don't know. It's like one of those things where it seems almost like too much, but then people would say, "Oh, that's not a big rating." But in today's landscape, that is a big rating. So how is it being calculated? Is it accurate? Because I remember years ago, remember Sinclair used to say, "Oh, wait, it says over 500,000 per week," or like, is that actually accurate? Is that true? Is that who could be watching, or is that who is actually watching?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the numbers, however they're being added together, are from like Nielsen that Adam Ware is sharing. But
Wow. Okay.
I think it's, I think week 5 is the one that makes a lot more sense than the way week 4 is reported. Yeah, and it could be like, well, it could be right. So I think it's Nielsen added space, but you're right. Like, are they adding like some digital numbers to replay numbers? It's still like the week 4 numbers is hard to come up with, but like when Diginet wouldn't do like any ratings of significance years ago, like they would sort of like add things up in ways that like you're combining a lot of different overlap, just in the way I was reading it years ago. So it's just something to see. But I think if it was actually doing 400,000, then we would be hearing a lot more about it. And week 5 like makes a lot more sense. But this is the 3rd time Adam Ware has posted about NWA numbers. He was at he's probably very curious why I keep going to his LinkedIn page.
Yeah, he can see that.
Yeah, like who is this guy? Like, why is he? But that's the 3rd time he's posted ratings for NWA. But he was also at the Center Stage shows. So had a fantastic time in Atlanta, attending and taping Billy Corgan's NWA Power, and then a couple other executives joined him as well. So whatever it is, they seem happy about it. Clearly the impact isn't being seen yet, in terms of attendance and that sort of thing. But, one thing doesn't necessarily correlate to the other. Wow ratings, we haven't gotten them in a while, but I think it still would be several 100,000, at least like 250,000 to still have the 100% syndication distribution that they have. And we don't see that come across, in terms of attendance. So NWA, something cooking. Obviously, these ratings are good things. It's just hard to sort it out. But I would say like the 150,000 numbers probably where we are. So, John, have you ever noticed on Eventbrite, if you go to a page, whether it's wrestling, whatever it may be, sometimes they'll show you like how many shows they've done and like the total attendance lifetime?
No, I haven't noticed that. But obviously, if you do that and divide it, you can figure out how many tickets they're selling per show, right?
Yeah, so sometimes like I had seen a couple years ago, like TNA, like I had done it for them, but now I was going to every promotion and they were showing me there. So we're going to cover it like promotion by promotion as we get there, and then some at the end for independent. But NWA, 87 events listed, 14,000 total, 161 persons per event on average in 7 years, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like they do a lot of studio shows and that sort of thing. Also, Brett Lauderdale had an important modifier for him, which could relate to a number of promotions. Anything that's ticketed, would count. So let's say there was meet and greet with Billy Corgan, that was an add-on or something like that, that would be going to the average. So it's not perfect thing, but it gives us a little taste. NWA Hard Time 6 in Center Stage. So WrestleTix had 298 people there, and of course the venue that holds about 800 or a little bit less. The 78th anniversary show there at the 2300 Arena is upcoming July 25th, and basically just the front row has been sold, a little bit here and there. John, are you interested in going to any modern NWA shows? Might you go to something like this?
I would. It obviously just depends on like the date and maybe who's going to be there and who's wrestling. I like to see who's on the card if anybody kind of sticks out. I am somewhat interested in NWA. I think I kind of would be interested, but I think that day in Philly, I believe the Yankees are playing the Phillies. So I
Oh,
think I
wow.
would.
Okay.
I'd rather go Yankees Phillies to be honest.
Yeah, let's see. So what time is this? 6 p.m. So maybe you think that's an afternoon game or it's like a night game?
That day is either 6:30 start or a 7
Okay.
start. I think
Okay.
it's on. I think it's on Fox. I could be wrong on that, but I know it's a little bit of a later start that night. It's a big matchup, Yankees.
Okay.
Phillies.
Yeah. So a crossover there. Oh, by the way, John, for those that don't follow both podcasts, while we were recording the Ultimate Fighters, I was watching the Game 4 score, and John was recording it for
Yes.
Spurs Knicks. And
Yes.
at the time, I was kind of hinting that they were down by 30, but what a comeback.
Oh, don't remind me. Oh, brutal. That was brutal. Oh my God. Biggest comeback ever in the history of the finals.
Yeah, no matter what team you support, you have to appreciate like what a moment that was. I watched the fourth quarter, but NWA news, in terms of their affiliates are going to WLW has been doing a nice job for a number of years, sort of like getting on as much TV as they can. They've been on enough, and I think they still are on a number of very, very small diginet under like one owner. I helped another company actually distribute under them for a while too. But now they're in the St. Louis market, actually on the CW11 network. So, the same as SmackDown on Saturdays at noon. So some nice growth for the Harley Race Legacy promotion.
What is going on with your favorite promotion of all time? What is going on with GCW?
Yeah, so talking about the event, right, and Brett saw it right away. So GCW 8 years, 410 events, 317 person average, which I think kind of like aligns. Like, you have some modifiers, which I'll share that Brett gave us, but I think that's like a reasonable, approximation of where they are. So this includes events like meet and greets, small venue shows like the Voltage Lounge, and other promotions. We sold tickets for like Jersey and LA Fights, Deathmatch Hall of Fame, and of course doesn't include a lot of bigger events like the Hammerstein or Talia Hall or Center Stage and so on. So I think that's reasonable, but I think it kind of like evens out. And maybe the average, if you factor all that in, is 350, 375, but it gives us a good picture. Now, I just want to talk about some of their higher profile shows. So July 4th, in Maimonides Park, Bash at the Ballpark 2. So I think, one good thing to see is that for the home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, they're coming back a second year. So that just shows, the success of the first show and, their partnership. July 4th, right, there's, I'm assuming, going to be fireworks there as well. So kind of like a cool experience for them, and one that they're putting some higher profile matchups on. But I kind of think that they should bring in some names from WWE, like, who had been with WWE, to sort of like get that like casual viewer, as they say, like people in Brooklyn and Queens will be like, okay, what are we going to do today? Oh, there's wrestling. What talent is going to be there? It's not necessarily known to them who Joey Janela is, unless they had remembered him from AEW a few years ago. It's kind of harder to track shows like this, but at the moment, plenty of tickets left. 10x in the front row, second row, third row, VIP, and of course the preferred GA section. Tournament of Survival, which has concluded, seemed like they did quite well, at the gate. As the last I tracked it, there was just GA available. Probably GCW's best market, as we've been talking about for a while, without like any gimmicks or anything like that, is LA. They may open up more seats depending on logistics, but just GA available ahead of the June 27th show. Talking about specialty shows, Joey Janela's 20 years in the game, August 6th in Asbury at the House of Independence show. Obviously, it might not warrant it, but I think it would be really cool if if it's still open, if GCW would run the Asbury Park Convention Center. I think that was like, am I getting the wording right? Like where ECW would run like those pay-per-views, and that looked like an awesome venue to run.
WWF used to run there too back in the day. They used to run like house shows and stuff there. Not like necessarily A level, but B or C for sure. ROH ran there. It's definitely a good venue. I remember we talked to Brett. This is a while ago. We talked to him trying to get into that building. Actually, a promoter friend of mine called them while I was talking to him because I was like, "Oh man, that'd be great." And they said they haven't been doing conventions or shows or bookings of that level, that nature. I don't know what the heck's going on. I don't know if they're redoing it or what, but they haven't been doing shows.
Oh wow, that's interesting
to
learn because it's like one of those cool like legacy buildings.
Awesome venue, yeah, very cool. I've seen a bunch of concerts there. I've seen Ring of Honor there. Really cool venue.
Yeah, I had a friend in college from Deal, New Jersey, which I think is next, like
Asbury Park. Yeah, very close.
Yeah, not very close. That like he went to one of those ECW shows with his brother, and it was just like, blown away by how wild it was.
Yeah.
So that's the GCW news.
I kind of want to go to Joey, my boy Joey. I got to see the 20 years, see what they got in store. Hopefully, it doesn't sell out because he wrote on online that it's going to sell out quick. So hopefully it doesn't. So
let's see here. Sorry, I don't want to. Actually, no, it's half an hour. I was going to check live because
it starts after I don't think it's gone on sale yet. Yeah,
we'll report on it next week.
Yes. So what about MLW? I know they were touting, like this is going to be a huge week for them and everything else. What's going on with MLW?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't have this in the notes, but I just happened to be watching. Killer Cross was on Ariel Helwani's show. I think Ariel just seems to like him because the amount of times he brings him on, it doesn't seem to like warrant as much. But Killer Cross seemed like really happy with MLW and just talking about that. So Eventbrite, MLW has listed 57 events, 29,000 total, with an average of 509 per event. Now, the interesting thing is that we didn't get a chance to talk about this before. Live Nation streaming service Veeps has locked in MLW for new Saturday night programming block. The Wrestling Circuit's flagship show will start streaming Veeps. Has already. Those tuning in will get access to limited edition merchandise drops, giveaways, and special offers. Veeps, which launched several years ago as a concert-focused streaming outlet, operates a $20 a month subscription, but has recently been bulking up its live events, sports, and entertainment. It was streaming Blood for Blood with bare knuckle fighting. Beyond weekly, the partners will team up for quarterly pay-per-views, including title matches and other initiatives. As part of the partnership, these will launch exclusive limited edition merchandise. The team-up offers the latest sign of wrestling's popularity. Professional wrestling thrives on weekly storytelling and passionate fans, said Kyle Heller of Veeps. MLW has built an incredible loyal audience and a strong creative identity, and we're excited to bring that energy to fans every Saturday. These events sit at the intersection of live sports, music, fandom, and community, and we see a huge opportunity. Veeps grasps a fandom culture and naturally fits MLW, said Court Bauer. With the incredible momentum MLW has built over the past year, partnering with Veeps and Live Nation ecosystem gives us the ability to bring MLW fusion, major events, exclusive merchandise drops, and immersive fan experiences. And Paul Walter Hauser is listed as one of the executive producers here in this Variety article, which he had been fairly quiet on MLW for a while, so that was good to see. So the Veeps thing. First of all, John, had you ever heard of Veeps before?
Not that I wasn't that familiar with it. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I had never heard of it. Obviously, it's under Live Nation, so there's something there. Whatever you could get today is great, and this is certainly a rabbit out of the hat because as we were talking about the challenges of MLW in terms of distribution, one of the things that I would say makes it seem like not that big a deal to me is that, there's still distribution so many different ways. Obviously, the beIN Sports, MLW isn't going to give that up, but they're still distributing this and even first on YouTube, and then Veeps follows it, right? Like, so if it was a bigger deal to be on Veeps, why would you premiere it first on YouTube? Wouldn't you want to put some momentum behind it?
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. You would think.
Yeah, so that's okay. So let's see what happens with that. I guess the key is if this moves any merchandise for them. Yesterday, as we're recording this, the Melrose Ballroom, I didn't look at any spoilers or anything like that yet, but that was, in terms of reserve seats, 295 distributed, and then there's like GA section, but that was sold out. Talking about 2300 Arena, the Summer of the Beast show is reserve seats are all sold out, just GA available. And for the following day, probably all the reserve seats are sold out. There's just one ticket, but GA as well. So a nice pickup for them there. But I searched for starting with 99 tickets in GA. That wasn't available, but there were 75 or more tickets still available. In South Carolina, moving along well. And even in November, MLW Azteca Lucha in their Chicago-based venue. That looks really good, as well. So in terms of their venue selection, they look really good. Do you think with like Live Nation, obviously they're not going to do major arenas, but as we saw with the recent settlement with Live Nation, they totally outside of MLW, just related to like tickets and that sort of thing, a settlement with the government that they do control a number of like amphitheaters or things like that. Do you think that they might work with Live Nation to scale up a little bit and work with some of these like amphitheater type venues?
They definitely could. I feel like maybe they should. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's time to step it up a little bit, step up the game, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, like, in terms of how these tickets are exactly being distributed. Maybe they're all sold, or there's a mix in terms of, distribution to fill it up. But if they have that momentum, you could scale a little bit larger. And, in terms of reading about some of these venues that Live Nation has, some of them have built in like production and so on. So that might help them as well. I guess this is step one. If the Veeps partnership shows something, then, you could go to step two.
What is going on with Progress Wrestling and Defy and new ownership?
Yeah, so this is one of those stories that broke, a little bit before we last did a deep dive in the news, and quite surprising, but really smart, I think. Killian Dane and Nikki Cross, based on their most well-known WWE names, they're taking ownership of Progress, and I didn't even realize that Progress owned Defy as well. So let's jump ahead beyond the press release to what they shared with Cultaholic. Genuinely, this was not on the bingo card for us either. We have talked about a million different scenarios for a long time. We've been wrestling for 22 years. Nikki's been wrestling for 18 years. So we know there's a time limit. We're going to have to start thinking about what is the future, and thought that this was going to be our little Scottish promotion in Glasgow, but no, it turns out this opportunity came along a few weeks ago, not long after Nikki had been released. Actually, it was only a few days after that. I'll be honest, I was in Belfast, about to jump on a plane, going to another show. And we started talking about it seriously. At first, we were talking with James Amner. He's been in a situ at Progress for a long, long time. He's one of the hidden gems. He hates credit in every single way, but it's one of these reasons Progress has ticked. When I broached Nikki with it, she was like, what? So there's been plenty of conversations. And listen, the boys made it very easy. I dealt directly with Martin Best, and he was very patient with me and so on. So I think this is like a really cool thing, kind of like, thinking about like stars going out there, obviously establishing themselves for a number of years, but keeping their roots to Europe. And, they can anchor the promotion. You have the brand of Progress, which is well known. You now have anchors of international stars who can like sort of work together, whether it's to grow it or sustain it in Europe. What do you think the prospects are for this?
I was shocked. It's like, wow, two wrestlers are just buy a wrestling company, and technically two wrestling companies. I was just like thrown off by that, but I wonder what they could do with it, how they could grow it, how could they make it bigger. Do they want to make it bigger here in the States, or they want to kind of revitalize the European scene, which seems like it's been kind of underdeveloped recently after having a big boom before COVID, and kind of maybe COVID kind of destroyed it a bit. So just interested to see what they could do with it. I'm just shocked, like Damo and Nikki Cross. Like, wow, like that literally came out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Do you get a chance to like check out any clips of like the European wrestling? I always get, the news of it, but like I'm not like so tuned into it.
Sometimes certain people that I follow online, they'll post clips and stuff, but it doesn't seem like a lot like they used to be. I feel like it used to be they were posting all like, "Oh, this guy's going to be a star," and this guy, and we have so much talent over here, and it just seems like maybe NXT UK gobbled up some guys, and then AEW gobbled up some guys. So I haven't seen hardly anything as far as the European nation over there, as far as wrestling stars recently.
Yeah, that was thinking, especially since like the WWE UK disaster.
What was not great. So as far as TNA wrestling is concerned, what's going on with them? I feel like wouldn't say cold, but they haven't been received as well as they were when they first were on AMC. It just seems like maybe they're in a creative lull. Are they in a ticket lull too? What's going on with TNA?
Yeah, so first of all, and I don't have this in the notes, it's like I'm starting to see a lot of like TNA lifers who are like very down on the product recently, and like the type of people that would always like defend it and so on, and then now talking about like how it hasn't been that good on AMC, and knocking the management and all that sort of thing. So the excitement of the AMC debut is like is over, and we're seeing impact, no pun intended, on the ticket sales as well. So let's run through where we are here. So in what's concluded, of course, June 6th and 7th in Denver, Colorado. The first night, 1648 tickets distributed. The second night, 1460. So that's not bad, but it was quite a large venue. Now, looking ahead of us, Slammiversary isn't that far away. In Boston, 1,336 tickets. In Albany, this is in July, 334 tickets, 391 tickets at the Broadview Center, which is quite large. Now, sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit because the Philadelphia shows is 331 and 355 tickets. Then in Chicago, 1471 in August. Brampton, 515 and 610. San Antonio is until September 24th, but 360 tickets, 367. So those were the few hundred. Obviously, some with plenty of room to move up. Looks quite bleak, and 1,500 is decent, but quite large venues. Now, in sort of like only in TNA type of thing, like, and I know, it was a little bit more to the story as was reported later. So Steve Macklin had done a wonderful, what was it, Tunnels to Towers fundraiser for firemen and so on. And you're like, okay, this is a nice story. He's even with TNA. And then it suddenly came out that he was released. And then everyone was like, sort of putting negativity on TNA, whereas, it seemed that, he was aware of his release earlier and actually didn't want it announced. And then they sort of like surprised announced it. And just a little thing, because you don't often see a number of Anthem Sports job listings. So they're looking for a senior corporate accountant, $85,000 to $125,000. I'm not sure if that's U.S. or Canadian. It looks like you could live anywhere for it. And this one, I didn't have a chance to look it up more, but they are looking for a manager of partnerships and sponsorship sales. There was somebody who they kept like sharing their name. If you want to get involved in that side of the business, I'm not sure if they're still there and they're building out this role, or this is a replacement for the role. But the descriptions, of course, include TNA as part of the Anthem universe. I know that there's some talk now, like in terms of the moves TNA is making. Are they getting ready for a sale again or whatever? I don't know anything about it one way or another. But do you think there's something cooking again with TNA?
I don't know. I haven't heard any rumors, or I don't want to speculate on it, but I don't think so. As far as I know, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, they've now been under the Anthem banner for quite a while, so just curious, about that. But we'll watch that closely. But I think it's just, they're struggling right now with some things. But obviously, with AMC, there should be some positivity, and they can dig out, if they need to.
How about here and there? Your favorite?
So first, keeping it going with the attendance, I asked Rock now that I had the Eventbrite information just to pull like what are other promotions doing. Looking at some other promotions quickly, West Coast Pro has done 54 events, an average 178. Kirk White's Big Time Wrestling, 22 events, 205 average. Creative Pro, 24 events, 258. Freelance Wrestling, 43 events, about 200 people on average. Pro Wrestling Action, 23 events, 160. This is interesting. Rocky Mountain Pro, they do a number of events, 250 events, but just 27 tickets sold per event. Now, for some reason, I asked Rock to separate it between little person wrestling and regular wrestling, quote unquote. So, because the little person wrestling, they do a lot of shows. So I was just curious, like how many people actually go, at least on the Eventbrite. So Micromania, 1,160 events, 94 person average. Little Mania Wrestling, 605 events, 88 person average. Little Mania Wrestling with Midget Mayhem, 1,050 events with 91 person average. So almost 2,500 events over the last several years, which, you know, no one is doing things like that, but obviously a smaller attendance, but they can have a smaller ring. Sometimes they do bar shows or whatever. So they're getting out there, but not a lot of people necessarily going to their shows. So next, in terms of the here and there, is the a little WWE ID talk. Just building up. More and more is that talents that are signed to WWE ID that they're being pulled from various promotions, from Dreamwave to Limitless and so on. So just something to keep in mind. And finally, the Lucha world in the US. So Masked Mania Live has gotten some additional bookings. October 23rd, Brookings, South Dakota, and Dubuque, Iowa. So good to see, because some of their first events didn't seem to be like too much more than a few hundred, but you know, the word is getting out there as they sell their events with their corporate partner. Triple Mania is a multi-day event, as WWE announced for the first time. Obviously not for the first time, but in terms of the US, they went small. The Luxor Theater, Friday, September 11th, 1,669 tickets. So basically a near sellout right away. Have you heard of Lucha Libre, John?
No, I have not.
So I started seeing this individually, and I thought it was just sort of like here and there, but it's actually a nationwide effort. So Jerry Rocha and Victor Dwight, the co-founders of Lucha Libre, are doing pro wrestling shows at libraries coast to coast, from California to New Jersey, and AP covered it, and you know, whatever their booking fee is or whatever, this seems to be a thing to get people to go to libraries and an attraction. So we'll see how this continues to grow. And OVW is celebrating, or just celebrated, I haven't watched it yet, their 1400th episode, and they had a number of people celebrating them on X in terms of former pro wrestlers or different personalities about that. So congratulations to OVW on 1,400 episodes. I would probably have waited to 1,500, right? Because that's a smoother number, but that's a couple of years away, of course.
Good stuff from OVW. JBL was even there. So obviously good stuff from them. So let's wrap up this bad boy. Let's head towards the plugs, Lavie. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, sir?
Yeah, follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE-MARG. Check out my long form articles on lioncubjobsearch.com. Join our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business, and support our pro wrestling aligned book, Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House. As you listen to this, the event on Sunday has already occurred or will occur very shortly.
All right. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.